What's up horror junkies, Factcurse here, and in this video we'll talk about the movie The Nun, which is the 5th entry in the Conjuring universe. Also, I'm gonna talk about the demon Valak and the connections of this movie with other Conjuring franchise films. The Nun takes place in 1952, which is before The Conjuring and Annabelle. So chronologically, it's the first chapter of the Conjuring cinematic universe, which takes the audience back to the rising of the ultimate demonic entity Valak. So before jumping into the movie, I like to discuss a little about the demon Valak. This demonic entity started appearing in the recent Conjuring movies and has become a main part of the timeline. But where does the Valak demon come from? Who is Valak? It is said that Lorraine Warren was actually haunted by an entity which she describes as a hooded black figure within a swirling black mist. So it was an actual entity haunting Lorraine Warren, but it wasn't a nun. The Nun came about after the director of Conjuring 2 visualized it after hearing the describing of the entity by Lorraine Warren. In real-life mythology, demon Valak is described in the books written around the time period of the 17th century, which describes Valak as a small male child with angel wings who ride upon a two-headed dragon. Valak is not only said to be the president of hell, but also governing over many legends of spirits. So now, as we know who Valak is, let's move on to the movie. Valak is said to be residing at the Abbey of Saint Carta in Romania. When a nun commits suicide at Saint Carta, people begin to suspect that the dark powers of Valak are involved. So Sister Irene and Father Burke are sent by the church officials to investigate the case. Okay, so now we need to talk in some more detail about Sister Irene and how the movie makes a number of connections between her and Lorraine Warren. Character-wise, Irene's vision is quite similar to Lorraine's psychic power, which makes them connected by blood or another way which may be revealed in the next Nun or the Conjuring movie. Then, it's interesting the way how demon Valak introduces herself to both Irene and Lorraine. Valak manifests herself to Irene via a mirror during one of Irene's visions, and Lorraine was also introduced to Valak in one of her visions via a mirror. Interestingly, the Nun also replicates the scene from The Conjuring where the shadow of Valak creeps along the walls before physically appearing in the painting made by Ed Warren and tries to attack Lorraine. Now in this movie, the shadow of Valak crawls along the chapel wall before appearing in the mirror behind Irene. During the whole movie, only Irene is allowed to enter the abbey and she thinks that the other nuns are helping her to fight Valak. But then she realizes that none of the nuns in the abbey existed, so all the conversation with the nun she had were just the visions or spirits. Here, Sister Irene learns that for Valak to roam free in the real world, she requires a host to possess. All those visions were a trick by Valak to weaken Irene's psychology and prepare her to be possessed when she unknowingly walks into the pentagram. Basically, Valak has been taking her through the 3 stages of demonic activity: infestation, operation, and finally possession. At the end of the movie, when Irene is briefly possessed by Valak until Frenchie breaks the relics and smears the blood of Christ onto her skin. Also, Valak vomits a snake into Frenchie's body after saving Irene from getting possessed by Valak, which acts as her last escape from the abbey, which I'll explain later. Continuing to the movie, Irene and Valak gets into a water-flooded room where Valak holds Irene underwater until she goes tumble, and then Irene spits the entire container of Christ's blood onto Valak's face, which dissolves Valak and also closes the door to hell. The second day, when Frenchie prepared to transport Buck and Irene back to the village, he rubs a hand over his neck, revealing a sign of an inverted cross on his skin, which later continues in the first part of the movie Conjuring, where Ed and Lorraine Warren were seen giving a lecture on exorcism of Maurice, aka Frenchie, who is possessed by none other than Valak. Also, they show him getting an inverted cross on his stomach and blood coming out from his eyes. The movie ties the whole story in a straight line from the events of Saint Carta to the defeat of Valak by Lorraine Warren, making a story about 30 years of fighting the evil. I love to hear your thoughts about the movie and its ending in the comments below as well as on Instagram. And if you enjoyed this video, a like and share would encourage me to get more horror content like this. Thank you for watching.